speak. We all get to speak and hear with incredible panelists. So we have Sean Carroll, who is the CEO and president of Anera. We have Maggie Ehrenfried, who is the vice president of advancement. And we have Mustafa Hassan, who is the CEO of Grant Assistant. So Grant Assistant, for those who don't know, are revolutionizing the grant proposal process through the power of AI. And they are, the ideal partner to have this conversation with today. So I'll give you a quick, I'll just explain very quickly how we're going to go through today's panel. I will be asking some questions. Our panelists will be answering them. Please feel free to write in your questions in the chat. We'd love to get to them as well. We'll make sure that we open our questions for discussion, and afterwards we'll have a Q&A. So Mustafa will do a presentation a little later on where he will present grant assistance.
Yeah, I'm in a meeting. Make sure that it.
All right. Oh, I think we need to mute everyone. Perfect. Right now. So we'll have a quick presentation of grant assistant, and then we'll bid you go.
And from what I understand from you.
All right. Okay, perfect. Then I think we could get started. Does anyone have any questions so far? Amazing. Okay. I think we're going to start with a question, and I want every single panelist to answer to this question. And the first one is, what is the future of AI in nonprofits? Who would like to begin?
Maggie, if you Hakui, if you like, I can take a crack at that very open-ended question. Hi, everybody. I'm Mustafa Hasnain. Extremely excited to be here and participate in this awesome session. I'm sure all of us are excited and a little bit concerned about the speed of growth of artificial intelligence. We want to understand what it means for us and what it means for this space in general. I mean, as far as the overall technology is concerned, it's a pretty interesting technology for this space, because what it really lets us do at its core is do a lot of the repetitive, time-consuming functions that we would normally have to put resources towards, and we can essentially now expedite a lot of those functions and make them very, very fast and very, very effective. I see a lot of, like, if I was to look at all of the positives, I can see a lot of utilization in fundraising, in generating content that can really sort of like let you get your story across there, let you get your message across there. Because the way I sort of think about it is that the one aspect is, hey, you do amazing work. The other aspect is, how do you get that in front of people? How do you get people excited about that work? And AI can be really, really, really powerful in helping you get that messaging out there faster, give you more options, as well as the stuff that we do, which is seeing how we can utilize this for the proposal writing process, for the grant writing process. How do you get better funding? Can you do better analyses on data? There are obviously flip sides to this as well, and they apply. I love that music, by the way. They apply across the world, across different industries. And are not specific just to the nonprofit industry, but of course, like with the proliferation of this incredibly powerful technology, we are going to be seeing a lot of shifts in how a lot of things work. And unfortunately, a lot of disinformation and misinformation coming into the equation as well. But like with any technology, you could use it for good, and hopefully this industry is going to use it for good, and you could use it for the other side of it as well. So it's really up to us, the humans, to make sure we use it effectively.
Completely agree. Yes, awesome. Okay, Maggie, what about you?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everybody. My name is Maggie Ehrenfried. I'm with LifeNet International. My core focus is fundraising and communications. And so we use a lot of AI a lot of the time in those realms. Currently, we use it for everything from making content or improving content, communications content, and not just verbal. We use it for visual content as well. There's a lot of generative AI out there. Whether it's its own program or it's sort of already embedded into other programming, we use it frequently to improve what we do. I like the idea of saying that we use AI to make us better and faster. So we're more effective and we're also more efficient. And it's really great. It increases our leverage. It allows us to almost be like this human plus operation, right? So we are not getting rid of any of our employees. We don't foresee that. We see this as a tool that our employees, including myself, can use to make us better than we were before. And it makes everything we do a lot easier, a lot better, a lot faster. And so that's currently what AI is doing, right? But I think AI is a space that we don't know yet. A little bit like in 1910, if somebody had asked you what job you're going to have, no one would have said a software engineer because that didn't even exist, right? So I think that we are yet to be able to imagine what AI can do for us in the future, because we're not there yet, right? There's just going to be incredible opportunities to come. So it's exciting, and I really think it's a game changer.
Awesome, thank you. What about you, Sean? What do you think?
Thanks, Akuya, and thank you, Humentum, and thank you all for being here. I think AI will mean for the nonprofit NGO sector what it means for the rest of the world. That is, it's here, and those who figure out how to use it effectively and understand how to avoid its pitfalls will benefit greatly. And I think, contrary to what some people think, I think sometimes there's a thought that the NGO sector, the non-for-profit sector, is slow on the uptake, and I think the contrary. I mean, look at the participation we have today. I was also at a session of a CEO retreat of CEOs of international development and humanitarian organizations, and we were being given a session on AI, and the presenter was talking a little bit as if it was two of them, as if he and she had to sort of convince us and explain, and then most of the CEOs in the room talked about how they and their staff are already using it. So I think there's already a lot of uptake. I agree completely with Maggie. It's a big time saver. And if nothing else, it's that. But I also think it can make us better. It doesn't mean that everything gets done for us. It doesn't mean we have to be smart. It doesn't mean we have to check the work. But just in speed of formatting and suggestions, and I use it all the time, and I find staff use it. They use it for letter writing and report writing, and you may not end up using any of the content first suggested, but just giving you a format, giving you an opening sentence, giving you a closing sentence. And so I think it's already here, and I think it will be here as much or even more than it is in the rest of society.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, thank you so much. Amazing. I'm actually going to ask you another question, Sean, because I feel like you would be the ideal person to answer this. On the flip side of what you just said, AI needs to be, ethical and inclusive. How do you recommend we as a community and as AI users follow the guidelines in order for it to be ethical and inclusive?
Yeah, thanks. I'll take a stab, and then actually I'll hand it over to Mustafa. I think he's got a lot of expertise and is looking constantly at this question. Look, we have to recognize that people are going to use it for ill as well. But it's interesting, we can often tell when someone is using it for good, but they've used it, right? And we laugh. We say, oh, look, that speech or those remarks or that note or that email, they must have used AI because that's not exactly their voice. Well, if we can do it for when it's being used for something good, we should be able to. And I recognize it gets complex, it gets sneaky, and it will get hard sometimes. But I think we have to recognize that it can be used for bad. We have to look out for misinformation, and also recognize that it needs to continually be trained. So if we're using it and we're using it for good and we're providing good information, then learning models can be trained, right? But let me flip it over to Mustafa, who's got some more on this.
Sure.
Sure.
I always enjoy encountering the word meticulously. Then I usually know that's AI generated as soon as I see that. As soon as I see a proliferation of that word. So I completely agree with what you just said, Sean, that it's again at the end of the day, there is a use component to it as well. Like with any technology, you can use it for really any purpose. I think one of the few things that I would like to stress upon is where are we right now as far as like initial training data sets are concerned. So large language models are essentially trained on the entire corpus of essentially the publicly available internet, like that, especially the ones that we are very well used to, like the ones from OpenAI or Anthropic. Now that obviously creates its own biases because unfortunately first of all, a lot of the content that is out there is not necessarily very high quality content. I mean, like anybody who spends their time on Reddit is not, like probably knows that, you can pretty much discard 70% of what's on there. That isn't to say there's not a lot of really high quality content that AI models have been trained on. There is a whole other counter argument to be had about like especially some of these organizations and how ethically they've actually accessed some of that information. I mean, we all were incentivized over the last 20 years through the Google algorithm to really put up every bit of information out there from, like the best recipes to like our stories about our cat and everything. So there is a lot of information over there that it's trained on. Unfortunately, though, with a lot of that training data set is in the English language. It is very sort of like Western focused, and the voices of the global majority are not as well represented as they should be in that training data set. We actually have a grant from the Atlantic Philanthropies. Of course, we can't bridge that gap, but take a first pilot stab at essentially adding in some experience, fine-tuning specific models to add in certain experiences from the global majority, sort of bringing in those voices. I think a lot more needs to be done to, first of all, encourage voices from the global majority to really add content. Now because we know that the AI companies are hungry for content. They're working towards building synthetic. I mean, this is actually a leveraging opportunity for folks who are outside the usual sphere to sort of leverage that, say, hey, we can fill in those voices, we can fill in that content dearth that you have with new content that we can essentially help create, and that can be more representative of our voices. I think more needs to be done on the ethics of this. More needs to be done in creating this inclusivity, but it also needs to be incentivized. It can't just be, hey, let's do another open source project. I hate the open source projects. There's all of the incentives are misaligned with usually stuff like that. But creating real incentive, just the way we created incentives for us to get ranked over SEO and put up a lot of content, similar incentives need to be created to make sure that more voices are represented in this technology in the future. It's very nascent. It's going to evolve a lot. So I think this stuff needs to be done on that end.
Amazing. Awesome. Okay.
I might add a couple
Thank you for
points.
that.
If Maggie doesn't want to jump in, I might add a couple points. Just one. I mean, I think, we're always going to have people who are checking content, and whether you're accepting something that was helped by AI, or you're producing something that was helped by AI, if the content doesn't reflect the work that we want to see, both on a level of professionalism, but also on questions of ethics and values and inclusion, then that's a problem. But that's on us. That's on the organizations and the staff that work there. But AI can also help with that. I know we use a meeting record keeper that will tell you whether you use non-inclusive words and whether you asked enough questions and what your demeanor was like. And so, we can also use it in ways that we are improving all the time, and we're getting more inclusive, and we're using the right language, and we've got the right level of engagement, and we're asking questions. And so it can actually improve our behavior and our comportment as long as we look for and accept that aid. And it's only going to be aid. It's up to us at the end.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sean. What about you, Maggie? Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just a little bit of a cherry on top to what Sean said. So on the front end, Mustafa obviously has a lot more expertise in how to develop tools that are inclusive and that use everyone's voice. And so I look to him for that. But on the back end, when we use the tool, it does give opportunity to increase the volume of voices and to further allow inclusivity of thoughts in the sort of the forum, whatever forum that is that you're presenting in. So in our organization, we use AI all the time to communicate with external individuals and also with internal individuals to say, French is not my first language. I'm actually very terrible at French, but I can use AI to speak in French. It won't be perfect, but it's much better than I could do without AI. It allows me to be a part of the conversation that's in French, and vice versa, depending on what the primary language is in that conversation. And we found that to be really useful and very empowering, to allow me to be a part of that conversation in a way that is meaningful. And that's true of whatever language you're talking about, that's primary in the forum. So there are positives, and I hope that developers like Mustafa and others can find ways to be responsible in building powerful tools that are inclusive.
Very true. Very true. So Mustafa, in your perspective, how can we use AI to accelerate localization? Because it is also part of the inclusivity process.
Thank you so much. I agree. And I mean, I joke about this a lot, and is that, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about even my experiences on this end, and then punt it over to Sean on this, because he's really felt this pain. But like for proposal for localization, I mean, if I specifically talk about USAID, for example, there is so much interest in doing localization. The first moat you encounter in localization is the proposal. So and usually if I'm a small, like I've experienced this firsthand. I've run a small organization for most of my career. I have to create a proposal. If I'm applying for funding, I have to create a proposal that is equivalent in rigor, equivalent in language capability, equivalent in compliance to a large organization with many more resources than me. And that's just the expectation there. And all of the rules are not very clear. When I started off my career, I did not know what a FAR was. Nobody sort of like puts those requirements clearly in front of you. I think that therein lies, I mean, and that's just one aspect of it. You go to reporting, so many resources of small organizations or medium-sized organizations are spent towards not doing programmatic activity, but essentially checking boxes, hitting compliance requirements, both at the front end of it and at the back end of it. And it's perfectly fair for the funding organization to know and be able to sort of like audit all of those requirements. I'm not saying that's not it's a needed requirement, but it's unfortunate that up till now we weren't really able to create a system through which we could complement the ability of organizations to actually deliver, and then also understand that they might not have the resources to be able to sort of like do the stringent requirements that they're expected to do. I feel that we're at the very cusp of start of it, but I think that in the next couple of years, a lot of these problems will be things of the past, that you will really be able to focus on what is important and have tools, have technology, fill in some of the other gaps and be like, like for example, a couple of years ago, right? Like if you had to do taxes in the US, like you had to go out and you had to get a tax person, and now you can pay $120 and you can go to TurboTax and it'll, you press a button and it's done. We will probably, like, we are sort of seeing that TurboTax moment for this whole process in this space as well. But Sean, I mean, I think you have like many more things to talk about on that end, since you've been on the other side of this equation as well, making these rules.
Yeah, I was in the last Democratic administration, the Obama administration, and I was chief of staff and COO at USAID, and there was a big push for localization, started then by Raj Shah. Of course, we're seeing it now, and the intent is real, it's authentic, and it's serious. But how do you get it done if it is so hard, as Mustafa was describing, for local organizations who don't know, who haven't submitted proposals before, who don't know how to even read the request for applications or for proposals? And again, most of all, just help with time. The amount of it's such a huge lift of time and of formatting and of checking and compliance and making sure, and you can really get tripped up on something that you didn't quite understand from the instructions. And so help on compliance, on understanding instructions, on understanding what's being asked for, and then converting your expertise at the local level, what you know how to do, putting that into a proposal language, it'll be a huge help. And I think without some kind of big lift, it'll be really hard, if not impossible, to kind of make that jump in the percentage of work that USAID and other donors would like to see done at the local level. And if international NGOs are doing development and humanitarian work right, then they should also welcome that. They shouldn't see it as, well, if the local orgs are winning, then I'm losing. They should actually see it like, well, you could sort of look at it and say, if I don't figure out how to work with and help local organizations to be able to work with us or work directly, then I will be seen as not doing development right. Because it isn't only a numbers game. It's about recognizing that to respond to human needs, you need people who are at the level of the need to know what the problems are and what the solutions are. And so the policy is correct. How do we have tools that can actually help move the policy in a significant way? And I think AI has to be and will be a big part of that.
Thank you for that. Maggie, in your experience, did you have moments where you're like, okay, this is a bit more of a complex topic when it comes to localization, or has it been a little bit more fluid for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're one of those organizations that Sean and Mustafa are talking about. We are less than 10 million, less than 100 employees. We are local in many of the countries that we operate in. And so, yeah, when we look at the playing field, Sean's talking about public funding, even private funding is focusing more towards localization, which is wonderful. But there's a gap, right? So the smaller local organizations don't have equal resources to the huge organizations that you're thinking of that receive a lot of prime funding from USAID and others, right? But AI sort of levels that playing field, right? It's like having 10 extra staff on your team fundraising, writing those proposals, responding to the report requests, making sure the deliverables are completed, doing the compliance matrices. It just really allows us to fight above our weight class in fundraising, which is wonderful. I would argue that we fight above our weight class in programs, and AI allows us to do that in fundraising to really fuel those programs again. So just really leveling the playing field, which is amazing for organizations like us in this push towards localization.
Completely. And it's very reassuring as well, especially for the future of these organizations. Actually, back to you, Maggie, because I think the next question, you would have like the ideal examples to really showcase how technology could create efficiently in both, pre-award and post-award phases.
Yeah, thank you for that. So to back up, I mentioned that we sort of fight above our weight class in programs, right? So we are a small organization, less than 100 employees, less than 10 million budget this year. But we work with 400 health facilities across 6 countries in sub-Saharan Africa. And we do that by basically drawing on conversion franchising principles. So isolated, under-resourced, sort of last-mile health facilities join the LifeNet network. And when they do that, they receive professional training. They receive our quality assurance. They have improved access to pharmaceuticals and equipment. And by design, that model really leverages a lot of local assets with our sort of low overhead on top of it, right? And we end up with this huge impact. So it's really small staff size per impact ratio and cost per impact ratio. Basically, our team of under 100 employees are able to improve almost 9 million healthcare visits every year in these last mile areas. So we have this extreme leverage in the model built in. But when you add AI on top of it, the leverage is exponential. I mean, any technology really increases that leverage, but AI especially. And we really, like I mentioned before, we value the idea of humanity plus, right? So AI and humans together getting things done faster and better. We have a high capacity staff, as you could tell from what we do. But with AI, we yield even greater capacity. So it's almost like one full-time employee can turn into 2 or more in terms of output, because we can actually work a lot quicker and a lot more effectively. We can make better product faster. We still use human creativity. We use human power. We have to. There's nothing replacing humans right now. But we can deploy those things in really specific ways, right? We can use humans where humans are really needed, and then we can save time and money in places that technology and AI can deliver good results. And we haven't seen any perfect tools, right? Like nothing delivers a finished product yet. But what we receive is a penultimate draft, right, of everything that we do with AI. And then we just do some minor tweaks on it with our human creativity and our human intelligence, and we have a great product. So one example that obviously we love is Grant Assistant. Thank you, Mustafa and team. On our fundraising team, which I lead, Grant Assistant basically acts with the capacity of at least 2 FTEs. It cuts down on the time it takes us to write a proposal, and it helps us write so much better. So one of the things I was going to mention about AI is that AI is often such a great tool for us to brainstorm, whether it's visually or verbally. We get new ideas that we then use when we're talking to AI and asking AI for a product. And we don't have to spend the time and the money to invest in people to have those sort of brainstorming sessions, right? We don't need a room of 20 people all week to sort of think through those different ideas, right? We can just use AI. And we've got some great returns on that, including from Grant Assistant. So we don't need additional employees or consultants anymore, which is great. One example is that we recently developed an STC proposal in French, not English, and that is not our fundraising team's first language. It was a very technical proposal for obviously a government funder. And we went from program design to submission in 10 days, which is unheard of for an organization our size. We have a very small fundraising team. Without Grant Assistant, we would have needed to hire several consultants for capacity support, and the process, I would estimate, probably would have taken us about 4 weeks to go from program design to submission. We would have had to hire translators and that sort of thing as well. So it was very fast, and we thought it was a great product. So we haven't heard back yet, but hopefully it's an award and we can all celebrate that soon.
Bon chance.
Yeah, bonne chance, exactly.
Yes, thank you. So we use everything. We use AI for everything, truly, pre-award and post-award. We use it for communications content. We use it for problem solving, for brainstorming. We use it to improve our programs. Thanks to Grant Assistant, we're going to use it for compliance matrices. There's just a whole host of ways that you can use AI. What we do is when we hit a stumbling block in our small organization with a smaller staff, we just say, can AI do it, right? And we look for the tool, we look for the way to use AI well, and then we go for it and we see what it outputs. And if it's a good product that we can tweak slightly with that human plus idea, then that's what we do. And it saves us a lot of money and a lot of time.
Awesome. And AI works best when there is that human creativity. It does the really nitty-gritty work for us, and then we get to really add the soul of the product and whatever we're trying to create. And that's where AI works best. And, AI tools like Grant Assistant are created by humans for humans. So that's why they work so well. What about you, Mustafa and Sean? Do you guys have anything to add in regards to the pre and post award phases?
Yeah, mute, Mustafa.
Yeah, now I just think for me, I think, I don't think there's much one can add to what Maggie just said. She's the end user, and folks like her are the end user for all of this technology. It's for me, just like listening to her right now, sort of like seeing the amount of value that she and organizations like her can get from the tools that we've had the opportunity to work on is just very gratifying. And I hope that we can continue to sort of like build more and more. I mean, we're really at the inception point right now. It's like, it feels like, the last 2 years have been like it's all AI, but it's like, this is really nascent technology. It's everybody who has opened up and used ChatGPT for a couple of times is at the forefront. It's like, you've already taken leaps and bounds to sort of like get yourself ahead of the curve over here. And the future is, if we do it right, I think the future is really, really exciting, really interesting.
Sean, anything to add?
Nope.
Awesome. Okay. All right. We get to another exciting phase of our panel today. But before we get started with the grant assistant demo, I want to ask all of our participants if there are any questions. If you guys want to add anything in regards to the questions that we have asked and answered. I see a few comments coming in, but in any case, if you guys have any, questions, please raise your hand, write them in the chat. We'll be more than happy to answer them after we do our demo. And yes, Bruce, you will be getting a demo in a few seconds, actually. So I get to see how awesome Grant Assistant is and what it does. Mustafa, would you like to take over? I think you have access to sharing your screen, right?
Perfect. Yes, of course I do. And I'm extremely excited to show you the demo, and also happy to field any questions that you might have. If you want to put them in the chat as well. I think I've become the admin over here, so it seems like I'm letting in people as well. So just want to make sure that somebody else is an admin as well.
I am. I got it. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. I'm just going to share my screen over here. And what you're seeing right now is we're inside Grant Assistant. Please do let me know if you can see everything, and I can start.
Yep.
Excellent. So basically, we built Grant Assistant to be very intuitive and sort of like be very responsive to your proposal process. And in fact, we made it so that it is a very guided experience. I will be skipping that guided experience though, just in the interest of time, and sort of jumping into an open proposal that I'm already working on. Obviously it's not a live proposal, so want to make sure that everybody's safe. We're not going to submit anything, but I'm going to go into a proposal over here. This is a large US State Department Bureau of Democracy and Human Rights proposal, NOFO. And what Grant Assistant does is actually you can do both a unsolicited proposal and a solicited proposal. So if you want to do, for example, a concept note, you can do that. But I think what it's really powerful at is if you upload a solicitation, it will actually start working with your solicitation requirements and really help you craft a proposal that is relevant to that requirement. Usually once you upload a solicitation, it'll ask you a few questions. It will determine the outline that you want to use. So we've sort of skipped through all of that step, and eventually you will be here, which is the proposal level dashboard. And we have a few things over here that provide a lot of value. So first thing, I think what Maggie mentioned was that this was a 28 page solicitation. Well, the first thing Grant Assistant does for you is summarize that solicitation into clear background, outcome, activities, and customers, partnerships and coordination, timeline, delivery, and submission requirements, breaks down the eligibility, the target location, and makes it into a nice printable document that you can print to really even say, okay, do we even have the resources? Do we want to actually go after this proposal? It works with you to develop your value proposition, and the AI really goes inside your documents and asks you a few questions, and also supports you in coming up with a value proposition based on essential documents that you upload. It automatically generates a compliance matrix. Maggie, this will be new to you as well, since it's coming in this new update. So once you upload a solicitation, it automatically extracts all of the requirements for you and connects them to different sections of the outline, which of course you can edit and enhance and even add additional requirements that might be organization specific. The one way that we really differentiate from pretty much everything that's out there is through essentially our mechanism of design and write. So rather than sort of plonking you into a Word-esque document, we actually give you a design space. This is where you can really ideate with your colleagues. Grant Assistant is a multi-user environment. You can have teams as well as other users working with you at the same time. Each outline requirement that the system creates is actually creating a question for you so that it's easy for the human to interact with the machine to really sort of come in. You can really build your scaffolding around your solution over here, sort of like really sort of think through what you want, bring your ideas to bear. If you have specific documents, you can add those specific documents over here and connect them to individual sections. So for example, if you've done specific work, if you have specific insights about a specific geographic area in Mauritania, you can actually add that as a document over here, as a piece of intelligence that you might have, and the system will be able to draw from that. You can add specific ideas over here. You can also have it generate a response for you, sort of like put together a few ideas from documents that you've attached to sort of like outline or build a structure of what's going to go into your write-up. We want to make sure that you know exactly what's going to go into your write-up without having to sort of like without having to worry about wordsmithing or finessing it. So I'm going to very quickly, I'm going to work on this background and context section, and you see how fast it is. So I'm going to upload I'm going to select a document from my document repository, this really a document on addressing trafficking. I'm going to have it suggest a response for me. And what it's doing over here right now is it's actually looking inside that document, and it's coming up with a few points that I'd want to sort of consider that might go into this into this background section. I can also add ideas over here. So I can say, focus, we will focus on Sahel West. I'm just coming up with things, Sahel West, on Sahel West. And I can come up with lots of, these ideas could be like data points. These ideas could be specific ideas. These ideas could even be words you want to make sure go into that specific write-up when it's generated. So you can basically have a lot of ideas, and as you can see, it's very auditable. Everybody knows, this was my amazing idea. Then I can jump into write, and I can, once I've got that scaffolding built up, I can jump into write and press write with magic. And what the system will do now is essentially it will now start to look at all of that content that I created, my organizational information, the solicitation requirements, solicitation requirements specific to this section. It will look at the way I answered the 4 questions. It will look at my the ideation component that I worked on, all the ideation that I did, and it will look at and compile that first draft for me. Now I can do a couple of things with this first draft. First of all, I can further fine tune it. Of course, I can write it myself, or I can give it specific fine tunement. So I can say, okay, I really like this section, but I want to make it a little shorter. I can press concise, and I can say, hey, try to get this down to around 50 words. So it's gonna really try to sort of hit that. It does go a little bit over sometimes, but that's pretty normal with every AI, and Maggie will really enjoy that, that thing. I can also do enhancements with it, and even include specific documents that I want to use to pull enhancements from. And I can even say, hey, translate this to French, and it will do that for me. So I'm just going to do that just for fun. Translate this to French, since Maggie mentioned that. And voila, there you have it. That specific paragraph is now in French. I just replaced that, so you see how easy it is to use. We have an incredibly powerful feature called suggestions. And what this does is does a document level deep dive into documents that are attached to your proposal and comes up with really solid suggestions. So like a suggestion of where to further solidify necessity for intervention includes specific statistics such as estimated this many individuals forcibly displaced and 2 billion people affected by Libyan conflict from January to 15. All of this looks really interesting. I wanted to understand where it all came from. So it'll cite the individual document it came from, exactly where it found every requirement. And then you can press the add this in button, and it will naturally rewrite that section with that enhancement in place. So it's not just hey, I'm going to plonk this in. It's more about sort of, and of course, cite the as well. It's about making sure that that new content that is generated is naturally woven in. And I can do this as many times as I want, and also generate new suggestions. compliance is a huge part of our tool and making sure that we are compliant with the requirements. So like I mentioned, when it created the matrix for us, it actually pulled out every requirement from different sections of the solicitation and connected them to the outline. Now I see over here on the right side, just specific requirements from the outline that are specific for this section. I can run a compliance check, and what it's doing right now is passing all of this information and doing a step-by-step compliance check, making sure there are statements in there that address those requirements. Again, not compliant to those requirements, since those could be made compliant across the whole proposal, and this is just one section, but is this section addressing that requirement? I can see this requirement is addressed. I can click on it, and it highlights the exact statements that address this requirement. I can do tell me more and learn more about the specific, the why this requirement is in sort of like a nice singular page, why this is doing it. But this ways, again, the human kind of comes in. The AI has told me, hey, this is why I think this requirement is addressed. You might feel maybe I want to do a little bit more on this. I want to maybe like add a data point over here. You can do that. And it's really there to just supplement and complement you in doing these tasks. You can create visuals using Grant Assistant. You can do brainstorming. You can create highly detailed customized templates that are usable for within your organization. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do that I think I'm already over time, so I'm not going to get into right now. But Rob from my team or Diana from my team will be more than happy to support you in any in giving you a personalized demo if you like to see a personalized demo. We also have a really exciting announcement later on, which we'll be doing for Humentum members, and we're really hoping that we can give you guys a tool that can really support you in your proposal creation process. And you can, by the way, go and set up a demo by going to our website. It's grantassistant.ai or grantassistant.com, whichever is easier for you to type in. But Grant Assistant is, if you type that in, it should take you to our website. So I hope that was a fast, I tried to keep it short, sweet, and fast, but I hope that was, that sort of showed you some of that sort of like made it interesting for you to sort of see what all the possibilities are with this tool.
So hi, Kui, I apologize for interrupting, but I want to make sure we do get to two questions that are in the chat that we didn't touch on. One is from Elise Wanzenreed, and the question is, how do you balance privacy and public good considerations of training tools to be better and more respectful of human rights or more able to counter bias?
So Rob, do you want me to take that question?
Please.
Yes. So a couple of things over here. First of all, in the way that we've designed this tool, this tool is designed specifically to be an augmenter of information that you have versus a prescriber of how the information is supposed to be interpreted. And I think that is a very important thing as far as this is concerned. The task of this tool is to make sure that any data points that you have, any human intervention that you do in the ideation process is taken into consideration and then outputted in the format that the client expects, that your customer expects, and that you are provided at each point, sort of like very audited, very sort of like clear, for example, like when you saw the suggestion feature, if it came up with a suggestion for you, it came up from the documents that you connected. It showed you exactly what it was pulling out from those documents, from where it was pulling that out to come up with a suggestion. Similarly with the compliance, like it is going to look at specifically the solicitation itself, look at each and every requirement that comes out of the solicitation, and essentially be able to sort of connect that to the write-up that has been created by the AI or by yourself to say, yeah, these two things are over here. Now you make the choice, you make the decision. So in some ways, there is no better arbiter of excluding bias than humans. What we have done, though, specifically is train the tool on, provide additional fine-tuning of the tool on USAID style guide and ADS so that some overt words are not used within the output itself. So we can and again, that sort of makes it more compliant as well. And then when we've sort of trained the tool on section generation, we sort of made sure that it understands what it is. It doesn't sort of like, so it's not sort of like saying hey, this is you should put this content in there. It's basically saying, okay, if I'm going to write a problem statement, this is how a problem statement is supposed to be written, that is applicable, and that is what is expected by my end customer, which is a large foundation, a state or federal donor, an organization like USAID or World Bank. So we are playing to those specific requirements, and basically making a tool that is responsive to those requirements.
Okay, thank you so much. Rob, you said there were two questions, right? Maybe there's a second question you want to highlight.
Yeah, the second question relates to, I'm going to go back up and see if I can find it. The question is about privacy and copyright. So how do we address privacy and copyright? Two very different and important topics.
So Rob, really, really good question. So first of all, the system is fully black box. So we don't train on any data that you create. And that is part of the agreement that we create with you from when you sign up to this tool. It's all of your documents, everything is completely black box. Any templates that you create are not even shared, not even by our team, not even to our team. So to ensure that we have Drata, which is one of the best, one of the biggest compliance firms in the world. They're currently doing an audit on us on NIST 800-151, NIST 800-53, SOC, on the SOC 2 compliance. We want to make sure that anybody who uses this tool can trust it, and be assured that your whatever you create stays within your organization. Any fine-tuning training that we do is external. Is from external data sets, is from publicly available data sets, it's like a publicly available data sets like the USAID DAC or those sort of things. So none of that sort of like takes organizations' private information in play when we do that training. Any machine learning that we do is completely on your localized system, so that this tool gets better, but gets better just for.
Amazing, thank you. I actually think this would be an interesting question to ask all the panelists when it comes to data protection in using AI. Is this something, that brings you worry? Are you comfortable with it? Even prior to starting using AI and on a day-to-day basis, was this a question that you would ask yourself? Maggie and Sean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, we are fully GDPR compliant, and so that is a big question that we have with all things. I'd say for open AI opportunities, we are very cautious about data sharing, because that data is used for learning, and can be applied in other ways. For a system like Grant Assistant that is very compliant in those regards, and also is, as Mustafa was saying, a black box, right? We feel much more comfortable using the data that we have to create new product with AI, because we feel very comfortable that it will be well protected within the system. But yes, if it's an open platform, we're very, very cautious.
Sean?
Yeah, I don't I don't have any real worries, frankly.
That's really good to hear. It's very refreshing, because we always have like a darker, side of AI, and we imagine these, awful scenarios. But it's nice to hear that, of course, there are rules and regulations set in place for things to work positively, in a very safe manner. Amazing. Do we have any other questions in the chat? For all of our participants, feel free to ask any questions. I'll open them up to our panelists. Patrick John actually had a question. I think, Mustafa, this one's for you. Can a customer go in the system and remove data in the system?
Yes. So if you you can remove all of your data from the system, and in fact, when you sort of terminate an agreement with us, for example, we usually provide 1 month of like, hey, we want to get the data out of the system and everything, and after that, everything is purged. Yeah, I mean, like, with systems like ours, like our intention is, hey, how can we ensure confidentiality? How can we ensure compliance with standards like NIST and SOC 2, and make sure that your data is protected, your data is secure. If you are going to an open, like for example, if you're using a free application, right, like ChatGPT, the free version of ChatGPT, for example, I would caution. On the one side, I would caution because if that data is like it's part of the terms of service agreement when you're accessing for free. And by the way, anything that you use for free, including Facebook and everything, you are the product. So you have to keep that in mind. Your data is always going to be utilized for training. I mean, that's what you do. If you use something for free, pay for stuff. But on the other side, there is a bit of a needle in a haystack kind of situation there as well. So, I mean, if you are resource constrained, you have to use free. I would still recommend using it versus not using it because, I mean, at the end of the day, the value that you probably get out of it is going to exceed to a large degree the value that, for example, that is going to get extracted out of you. So it's a net positive in that sense as well. Unless you're working on something really highly sensitive, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it then. But if it's not something very sensitive, I would err on the side of, okay, I might as well use this resource, even if it's free and I know, but go in knowing, yeah, you are the product, your data will be used in that sense for any of that stuff. With Grant Assistant though, since it is a paid product, we are a very high our focus is very high on security and compliance. We have a number of security experts, both on our board and on our and internally on the organization to make sure that those really high stringent security compliance requirements are met.
Okay, perfect. We actually have several people who asked questions in regards to post-award and what would potentially happen and how could Grant Assistant evolve. And are there any plans potentially on the books, or is this a second phase?
Oh yes, I mean, huge plans for Grant Assistant in the future. I mean, we want to make sure that we are your development and your project CRM basically. So the proposal is just one side of it, award management, post-award, and also that the tool has a lot of integrations with tools that you are already familiar with, other tools, other folks who make incredible tools in the industry, in the nonprofit industry, that we connect with them as well, that we integrate and provide them with ways to both increase their revenues as well, of course, but also provide a larger audience with those tools in an integrated format. So that's where we're sort of working on right now. The whole idea is, hey, can we take this one? The first step is, can we make the proposal process easy? Maybe the next step after this would be, can we make sure the budgeting side of it is done so that we have a conclusive and comprehensive product? And you probably don't need Word after that for proposal writing, right? In Excel, so we have everything. And then maybe after that, it's like, okay, how are we managing our proposals? And on the flip side of it as well, how are we discovering new opportunities? So we have like our intention is an end-to-end formula, really. A very dear friend of mine, Ryan, and I, we constantly, who's over here actually, hi Ryan, constantly sort of have this conversation about like, hey, there is so much need for every aspect of this process to be supported, to be enhanced, to be expanded upon. That really just like the proposal is just like one tiny sliver of it. And it's can we help you do it on every side of this process?
Okay, perfect. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. Martina is asking, does this help create tools like logic models, indicators, PMFs, etc.?
I love it. So that was a question that we were actually, Rob was actually asked yesterday as well. So we have a very comprehensive template builder tool built into the system. And that is very flexible in being able to sort of like drive a certain specific type of output, like a logic model, like an M&E plan. And we already have presets of those built in, which you can even further customize and make them more specific to your organization. In fact, it's these sections of our proposal that we have, these sections themselves that we've actually done a lot of training and fine tuning on. So we actually trained on about 7,000 different examples of different sections, different types of sections, like, hey, how do you write a good problem statement? Not the content of the problem statement, which is coming in, from your insights and documents, but essentially, how do you structure it? How do you structure an M&E plan? And that's actually gone into training. And what has come out of that is essentially our templating tool that can really adapt to any kind of output. Like my favorite part if I'm ever doing the demo, and I'm sure this is for Rob as well, is when we have a template builder tool working, and we actually ask people, come up with a section that you think nobody's ever thought of. And this give one line, it gives one line. Then after that, the system generates, this is the question I'm going to ask. This is how this section is going to be written. This is how all this stuff is going to get done. These are some examples. And it sort of creates all of that context just from that one line. And usually people go like, whoa, that's how I would tell my staff to write that question, the response to that. So I think that is, we're very, very, very excited about some of these. I mean, we've been very thoughtful in developing these tools for these industries, making sure that we use the best of what's available out there and complementing that with industry expertise that we have to build something that is unique, that is, for this industry. And on that note, by the way, Haikui, I also want to do a quick announcement.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that, with your permission, of course, that anybody I mean, we are very excited about our partnership with Humentum. This is going to be hopefully the first of many sessions on this, as well as many different forms of partnership that we do with Humentum. As a first sort of like starting point, you'll be pleased to note that any Humentum member now will get grant assistant for a straight up 15% discount, as well as a full month of free access. So if you, for example, sign up for a 12-month deal or whatever, we'll give you like the first month free, plus give you a 15% free, as 50% off it as well. And of course, there is a free trial and all of that stuff as well. So it sort of builds on top of that. So we're more than happy to support you, in this process. I'm extremely excited.
Yeah, likewise. We are very excited at Humentum. I think this is going to be a really very fun collaboration, and for all of our participants who get to try out the tool and get to see how amazing it is. I just want to say a huge, huge thank you to our panelists, to Sean, to Maggie, to Mustafa. You guys were amazing. This was such a fun experience for me. I had a great time. Thank you for all of the valuable information that you shared. Thank you to our participants for coming along. This was really exciting to get to see you all, and please continue to, ask all these questions, send them in if you want. I will be saving all of the questions in the chat. We'll make sure that we get back to you, because these are some great, amazing, amazing questions that I'm sure we all want answers to. So we'll send you more information via email very, very soon. And yeah, thank you once again. This is awesome.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.